All right. Yeah, I hit a different button. They make these things too small. It's hard to tell what I'm looking at when I'm doing it.
Well, it's too bad we lost the original opening. That was.
Yeah, I like this one better though. Hello, Rose.
Oh,
Oh, we can't hear you, Rose.
you're muted right now.
Yeah. So, hello, Miriam. Hello, Sam. Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Osama Rami. And
Are you still muted, Rose?
Yes, she's still working on that. Now we can hear you.
Yeah, okay.
Although I don't think it's good quality hearing. Say some more.
What about now?
Okay,
Yes.
now it sounds better. Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Brilliant.
So we're here today for a special episode. It's entirely dedicated to Betty Ibtissame
Lachgar.
Lachgar. And she goes by Betty to people outside, I guess, of Morocco. And we're here to work on helping free her and, figure out altogether how we're going to do that with the help of Miriam and Rose, Miriam Namazi and Veiled Rose. And of course, Usama El-Bini is helping, and I'm helping too. But I don't know. I see. I've been looking at the work happening behind the scenes. I'm more, tertiary. So I'm glad Miriam and Rose are on here. They've been working on it more than we have. So hopefully you guys can teach us this and teach our audience what we need to be doing and come up with a plan right now. So where do you guys think we should start?
Probably maybe some kind of an outline of what's actually happening, even though we did talk about this a little bit last time. I don't know, maybe Mariam or Rose can give kind of an outline of where we are, how we landed in this position, and what should we be doing next. But probably where we are right now.
Mm-hmm.
Who would like to start?
Yeah, sure. The position we're in at the moment is, unfortunately, Betty's had the sentence for 30 months. And we're appealing that. The lawyers, I believe, are appealing going to be putting up in appeal. There's been quite a big backlash from people. I've seen protests in Spain and France. In Paris, there's a protest planned for this Saturday, tomorrow. And I think it's just a case of keeping on the public pressure and making sure we keep talking about what's happening with her, because as soon as the government in Morocco think that we're not talking about her, we're not listening to her, we're not fighting for her, then they will, her situation could get much worse. I think that's the main thing. But there's something like 4,000 people who have signed a petition to free Betty. On the day that she had a trial, we had people like organisations like Filia and National Secular Society in the UK posting in support of her. I believe one of our members has been in touch with the UN as well, and there's actions going on there. And we've had protests outside the embassy in Morocco. A brilliant organisation called Femen. They've done some activist protests outside the Moroccan embassies in France and Germany, and I believe Spain. And I think in the UK we haven't seen so much press coverage in the UK press, but in major foreign newspapers and press like Le Monde I think that's in France, and El País in Spain, they've been covering her trial, and there's been a lot of attention there. And there was my French is really bad, but there's saw some post like fly posting, which basically where you go out with a paste of watery paste to do the wallpaper, but instead of putting wallpaper, you put up posters.
Looks like we're losing connection with Rose. Maybe Mariam, you can continue. I heard a lot of details just now. I wonder if we can summarize or just move on to what action items we could be doing to move this along, or
maybe,
Yeah.
if before you start, if I can add a little bit of a direction, maybe to create some definition in this, because I know that from that same organization at one point in the past there was an activist by the name of Hajar al-Raisuni, I believe, who was imprisoned, and they lobbied for her release.
I think it's so.
Yeah, I was trying to see if there were lessons that were used from that previous incident that can be implemented in this case, because it's the same environment and it's like a deja vu, but probably there are ways that can be now implemented based on that situation.
so do we know what, or do any of us know how that worked out before, and whether we can reuse what we learned?
I'm not entirely sure. I just know that they had a previous incident of this sort. I wasn't sure what the outcome was.
So have you discussed the whole case? Because I think one of the important aspects of this is to persuade people that she shouldn't be in jail. And I think we're not just talking about, fundamentalists who think she should be jailed and worse, but a lot of very good people who think that, well, she shouldn't have really done this. This is Moroccan society. She should have some sensitivity. And what else would she expect having worn such a T-shirt? And I think this conversation is also very important here, because it is about creating mass support for Betty. And that has to include people who don't necessarily agree with the T-shirt or agree with a lot of the things maybe we as ex-Muslims and apostates will say, blasphemers will say, but understand her right to say it, and also the fact that it is part of her peaceful freedom of expression to do so. So I think a little discussion around that would be quite useful as well, because I'm not sure everybody starts from the same point of view as we do, that she had to be defended unequivocally. And I think there's a couple of things when you look at sort of the conversations that are going on around it as well. She, first of all, I think it's important to remember that the photo she posted of herself was taken in London. It wasn't even taken in Morocco. And with social media the way that it is, you will inevitably, it means that anyone can face these sort of repercussions by posting a photo that is deemed offensive by the law of another country. You do it in your country where it's safe, or when you're traveling, and you're going to face the repercussions in another country completely.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So this is one important point. The other important point is that even if she did it in Morocco, the fact of the matter is she's not a believer, and it's sort of her T-shirt is really not that offensive if you think about it. It's offensive if you look at the world from the point of view of fundamentalists that want to kill anyone that doesn't agree with them. But if you look at it from just a sane, common sense perspective, Allah is lesbian. There really isn't anything wrong with calling God either a woman or a lesbian. Popular songs do it. There are protest movements that do it. For example, Pride in London, we see signs of that nature all the time. So what this statement says is to challenge patriarchal norms, to challenge misogyny and homophobia, and that's the whole point of the T-shirt. And obviously, the reaction from her opponents show exactly why such a T-shirt is necessary to open up conversations. But why is she imprisoned for 2.5 years for it? I think that's a fundamental question that everybody should be asking themselves, particularly given that she's worn this t-shirt for several years now. And this latest episode happened because there was a concerted cyber campaign against her by anonymous accounts that are associated with far right and religious right groups. And they tagged the security services in Morocco. And what happened is, rather than the security services arresting people who were threatening her with rape, with death, with stoning, they went ahead and arrested Betty. And it's typical of what free thinkers face. You know, we have this conversation about apostophobia. This is exactly the case, isn't it? So I think this is one thing we need people to think about. You know, what is so insulting about it? Doesn't she, as a non-believer, have a right to say what she says? Is it not in line with Moroccan culture? Well, Betty is also Moroccan, and that is part of her culture and the culture of people who want to defend women's rights, who want to defend LGBT rights. So I think this conversation is, you know, important. We owe it to Betty, in a sense, to have these conversations, because that's the whole purpose of what she was doing. She wasn't trying to make some sort of provocative act for no reason. She was trying to open up conversation and discussion. And she's helped so many people over these years. You know, she has put her life on the line, especially given the fact that she's so unwell as well. She's a nomad. She's always traveling. She's always, you know, intervening in abortion rights, in reproductive rights, for teenagers who are persecuted for kissing, for people who are persecuted for eating during Ramadan. I mean, it's on and on and on. She set up an organization to defend individual rights. And so here is someone like that, whose rights have now been violated, and what is our duty just as citizens, you know, in this world, to defend her and support her. And I think these are the really key questions that people need to be thinking about.
Can I ask a question about what you said? The people who, the regular people, the people who are not fundamentalists who think that she shouldn't have done it. Are we talking about people in Morocco or like people in like London?
Everywhere, literally everywhere. I've seen comments saying that she should have known better, that she's lucky to be alive. What was she thinking doing it in a Muslim country? But I think that they're missing the point. The fact is that she is not the one that should be in prison. She is not the one that has harmed anybody.
So I wonder if they would say the same thing about Socrates. Socrates was executed by the state on the charge of infecting the minds of children against God. So I wonder what these people in London would say if you were in ancient Greece. Would you have told Socrates you shouldn't have said those things to those children?
Exactly, Rami, and that's the point, isn't it? There's always been people who, they're people like us, and hopefully people that we attract, and we grow as a community, as dissidents and dissenters. But there's always been people like those who are saying that Betty should have known better and blaming the victim rather than the aggressor. It's very, very, very messed up and very sort of like it's. I think when George Orwell said that there's double speak, I don't think people realise religion is the biggest double speaking bullshit that you can get on the planet. So I mean, the aggressors and the ones who want to murder and the ones who cause corruption, because what they say to us is, as ex-Muslims, as apostates, that we are the ones that are causing fitna and causing corruption. But how are we causing corruption and damaging society when we want a peaceful look and criticism of things that are harming, you know, these religious texts, whatever religious text you go to, they're really harmful and they call for executions and stuff like that. They're the ones causing the corruption. It's not us that are causing the corruption. And I think it's really important that we expose this double speak. And in the case of Betty, I mean, crying out loud, I mean, she's not much taller than me. She's this tiny woman who goes around doing creative activism, like drawing with chalk, crying out loud, and having sandwiches, you know, during Ramadan in public. I mean, it's not exactly violence and threatening, but for some reason, you know, that there are many who are blaming her for being the provocateur, where it's not. They shouldn't provoke us and try to make us
So,
invisible. Yeah.
so it's like blaming the beaten wife for saying that thing that caused her husband to beat her.
Absolutely.
It's the same logic, right?
Yeah. And
Maybe if we show them a mirror, because we're talking about people in London. There's lots of places, but I'm just picking London because that's where this happened. So there's people in London saying, hey, Betty should have known better. She shouldn't have said that thing to cause somebody to violently react to her. But that's the same kind of argument you'd be saying to the woman. If you show them that, I think they will get it, right?
Well, I mean, I think people just, there's different reasons why people do this, but a lot of it I think has to do with cowardice. You know, they don't want to rock the boat, but they don't understand the boat is already capsized, and it's, you know, it's about sort of standing up for what's right. And an example I always give is, well, you know, you have to respect culture. Well, you'd still have members of parliament owning slaves, or women not having the right to vote, if everybody respected, you know, injustice and inequality. And Betty, as a free thinker, has every right to say what she thinks peacefully without inciting violence, which is exactly what she did. And you know, this whole idea that Islam has been insulted. She's in prison for 2.5 years because Islam has been insulted by a T-shirt. And I mean, when you think about it, it's absurd because Islam is insulting other religions all the time. They're insulting apostates, gay people, not only insulting, but inciting hatred against us. And what do they say about the Ahmadiyas? What do they say? What does Islam say about the Baha'is, for example? It's on and on and on. And all religions insult each other because they think they're superior and better than the next one. But again, I'm sorry, just to end the sentence, how can insulting an idea be a criminal offense? It's an idea. Ideas of people are different, and you should be able to criticize ideas. And as you know, you mentioned, Rami, there are so many examples of people who were executed during history for questioning, for criticizing, for doubting. And this is just another example.
For having thoughts.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm thinking in terms of the reactions that people are having. It's obviously dividing people into maybe two camps: people who are really being duplicitous and two-faced about advocating freedom of speech, and then coming up with this kind of reaction to this. But also, there's another there's another group that I'm sure would be very much supportive had they known, or are they actually exposed to the type of work that she has been doing, to the activities that basically set a context for this. Because if you just say, oh, somebody wore a T-shirt in a place that is going to be condemning them immediately for this kind of thing, even though she did not wear it in Morocco. Once they're able to see what kind of context there is, once they are able to appreciate the kind of contributions, the work that she's been doing, I'm sure that so many people would line up and see that this is actually something that needs to be supported instead of being condemned in this unjust way.
I think
so not only should we be talking about Betty, the part about freeing her, but also all her work.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Talking about all her work.
Sorry, just before I forget, if that's all right, just quick. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think it's really important that we share anything that we have of her speaking engagements from the past. There's an excellent video where she was talking at a Council of Ex-Muslims of Britain event, where she was going through highlighting about 15 years of her activism, of the different things that she's done. You can find it online. It's in Mariam Namazi's one of her YouTube channels called Nana Golaset. I think that's how you pronounce it. but yeah, there's an excellent documentary where somebody interviewed her, and that she talked in herself again. Sorry, and she was talking about what motivates her, and one of the things that stood out to me was when she said that people don't have autonomy over their own bodies under the laws in Morocco. For example, women who can't have abortions unless it's under two conditions: it's life-threatening, or and they have to have their husband's permission. I mean, that just boggles the mind. But yeah, I think it's really important that we stress what sort of work she's done by actually showing videos of her talking and campaigning.
Should we
So
play it today?
yeah, if you can.
Maybe not now, because we don't have much time with Miriam. Maybe when
Okay.
she's gone, we would play it. And
Yeah,
we
sure.
just continue.
Yeah, if I can just add this, I mean, I think that's an excellent point, Osama. I think this is something that Haram Dudos also mentioned in our, as we were meeting as Ex-Muslims International and strategizing on her case. And one of the important things she mentioned was the fact that we need to humanize Betty and to show who she really is. She is a hero for so many of us, you know, and she is just someone who has affected positively the lives of countless people. And one of the things I was talking to Rami about before the program started was the fact that, you know, because she's had 3 court dates and each time it was delayed until this last Wednesday when she was sentenced, we've been reacting to trying to put pressure. But now that she's been sentenced, we really need to come together. And I think there's a plan to do that. Veiled Roses coordinating the Ex-Muslims International campaign, come together to see all that we have to do in order to push forward this campaign to protect and defend Betty, and also to stand with her family, with all the activists, and with her, to make sure that she is freed and freed immediately. And one important issue that needs to be mentioned is the fact that she has a serious health issue as well. And the fact that she's a surviving cancer patient, she has a prosthetic left arm, and she could lose her arm if she doesn't have an urgent operation. And so these are all, you know, things that, in addition to the 2.5 years, her life is being put at risk by this sentence by the Moroccan authorities. So, I mean, if I can just make a few suggestions and ideas, there are lots of videos. For example, Betty with Nadia Al-Fani and myself and Momo, we organized a Celebrating Dissent conference on laïcité in Paris in 2023. Sorry, my mind is. And we made a film about Betty's work. So, you know, something like that, to find those clips from all her panel discussions at all the Celebrating Dissent conferences, for example, at the meetup that you mentioned, Rose. We really need to gather all of those up. And her sister has produced her biography for the press. So that's something that we should be putting. I think we're planning on making a special page for her on Ex-Muslims International, if I'm right, Rose. And so that was part of it. But videos of her work, helping putting sample letters to the Moroccan authorities, having people, giving people information on where to write. I think Rose is working on that now. Letters to MPs. One of the suggestions I had was sending her postcards to the jail that she's in, and also taking a picture of it, posting it on social media. So even if she never gets it, that's there for people to know that there's all, because there are a lot of people who support Betty. I would bet everything to say that for every person that wants her dead, there are literally hundreds of thousands that will support her, because she has gone everywhere. She has done everything you can imagine. She's been on every continent fighting for women's rights, for LGBT rights. So there are so many grassroots activists and people whose lives she's touched who will support her. And of course, we need to somehow coordinate the campaign, because one of the problems is a lot of the support she's getting is in the French-speaking world. And even as was mentioned, you hardly have any information about her in the English-speaking world. It's mainly in the French-speaking world. So somehow working with French-speaking activists in Morocco as well, and coordinating with them, I think that's going to be key. I also think that we should be having days of action when she's been in prison for 100 days, when she's been in prison for 250 days, and so on. And of course, using important international days like Blasphemy Day, like Human Rights Day, December 10th, which is coming up, these dates to sort of focus on Betty. Because the reality is it's also focusing on a lot of the issues that we constantly talk about. But here's a real live example of how someone who's done so much is being persecuted over nothing.
One small way I look at it, I mean, I was already on board helping before I thought of it this way. If I was in that situation, I hope all of you guys would mobilize to help me.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's how I'm reacting with Betty.
Yeah. And
I'm glad
I think
lots of people here know how to do it. I'm a follower in this.
You're doing great. You've done a lot already.
Absolutely.
I mean, you have been part of the group, haven't you? The group that's working in the background, that's focusing on Free Betty. So you've also been a key part of it, as as has Rose and Haram Doodles and Jenny Wenhammer from Femen and Samir, Skeptic Samir. And so, together we've been doing pretty well given the limitations we have and the threats we've all been under. But we need to focus a lot more and do something much more widespread.
Yes. Haram Doodles and Skeptic Samir, they're in charge of the EXMI website. And if people, especially anybody who's watching who's not familiar with the case, if people go on there, there is a press release, but there's also some resources as well.
I'm going to get the link right now and put it somewhere.
Yeah.
So we've already started with putting up some of the videos where she's spoken, some of the documentaries, or where she's had speaking engagements, so people can already start to see some of the excellent stuff that she's done. We've also put up there some template social media captions that people can use, so they can tag their MPs or any human rights organisations or any influential people that could also add to our voices as well. So we've got that. And we put up the letter we sent to the Moroccan Ministry of Justice on there as an open letter, because one of the things that we want to do is have an open letter signed on behalf of like various public figures and organizations who are in this fight with us, to say, it's not just EXMI, it's not just one or two organizations, it's a whole barrage of people and people that they represent as well, who are, keeping an eye on how she's being treated and fighting for her to be free as well. Because I'm a strong believer in, as an individual, it's very easy to pick somebody off and isolate them and, just do whatever you like to them. And you're a lot more vulnerable as an individual. But when you get organized as a collective, you can make a hell of a lot more noise, and it's harder to dismiss. And so, yes, I've also, I'm not going to disclose my location by saying who my local MP is, but they're quite a progressive Labour MP. I've written to them. I haven't had anything back. I've written to them a few times. I haven't had anything back. But I think if we publicly write to certain people as well, that in a what's it called? In an ideal world, in a world that makes sense, they would be definitely on board with what we're saying. But in this case, I haven't had a reply and it's been a while. But just to show the hypocrisy, because what Mariam Namazi calls cultural relativism, I've heard you talk about it a lot, and I love the way you talk about it, so I'm going to talk about it too. is, you know, because we're from a Muslim background, or because we're from a non-white Western background, people assume that we don't want the same universal, same human rights and stuff like that, and it's just not on. And what, you know, one of the things I want to try and challenge, and one of the reasons why I came to come up with my persona as Veiled Roses, I want to challenge that. And I've seen in the labor movement or the socialist movement that I was in that I've seen people sprout all sorts of really Islamist sort of like bile, and they've been sharing support for um, Bengali imams who are demanding blasphemy laws in, say, Bangladesh. And I've been like, well, in the UK, you're saying you're a socialist and you're with certain people, but when you're posting about your own homeland and abroad, you're supporting people calling for blasphemy. Which one is it? That we can't have that hypocrisy. And so I think with this as well, one of the things that I've seen is people saying Betty shouldn't expect any better because it's a Muslim country. It's like, hell no. If we all put up what we were supposed to expect, we'd still have slavery and things like that. So I think it's going to be important we call out any hypocrisy that we see as well. But the focus, I mean, it's a tough one because the focus has to be proactive. But if there are people and things that are getting in the way and blocking that focus and that progress with all of these rights, because it is about Betty 100%, but it's also about what she's representing. It's about the fears and the threats that we all face as apostates. Avijit Roy from Bangladesh, a blogger who was hacked to death in Bangladesh, one of the things that he said was that when we start to campaign and speak as atheists, as apostates, unfortunately, we have to deal with the fact that we may be killed. And that there is a threat for it, and we do it because we want a better world. And it's really heavy going, but I think we've got to stress those sorts of things. I feel like I'm ranting a little bit, but I think that there are certain home truths that we really need to spell out, because the things that Betty is going through, it's all of our fears. I don't know about anyone. I don't need to say all of our fears because it's not fair for me to talk for other people. But you know, even though I'm living in the UK, I'm terrified of disclosing where I live. I'm terrified of saying my actual name. I've seen clips of I think when I first started really paying attention to ex-Muslim spaces, there was a incident in the second city in the UK, in Birmingham, where there was a disagreement between these imams, these Dawa boys, that I called them anyway, and there was a disagreement about Palestine. And so people like Ali Dawa were dog whistling, and Mohammed bin Hidab were dog whistling, and the person in Birmingham, I think it's Mufti Abu Laid or someone, they they ended up having people kicking down their door and shouting and screaming and attacking the house because they didn't agree with them on Palestine. And that's in the UK, and we saw the footage of it, and it looked horrifying because there was a 7-year-old girl in that house as well. And we all live with these sorts of fears, unfortunately. And when we say that the world is back to front, it is because Islamists, especially in the UK and possibly even more so even in America, Islamists are given a blank check, and anybody who criticizes them is called an Islamophobe, rather than dealing with the horrendous things that are going on because of Islamism. We're just silent. and told to keep quiet, and we're called the racists instead, and the ones that are the aggressors. Whereas, and so we're not getting to address these issues and expose them as clearly, because we're silenced so much. I think it happened when you were in Pride a few years ago, where the East sorry, you have to laugh at this one, but the East London Mosque is a homophobic, an outly homophobic mosque, and they had the audacity to tell ex-Muslims of Britain that they can't work with the Pride people, and told them that ex-Muslims of Britain can't be at the Pride parade. I think I've said that right, isn't I think I've got the details right. And Jimmy Bangash wrote an excellent article on that for Clear Majority about the hypocrisy there. But
what was the reason, specific reason for why we shouldn't be involved in the Pride Parade?
Well, it was basically, we had also an Allies Gay. It was 2017. It was the first time we marched in Pride. We had an Allies Gay banner. The police came to remove it because it had offended someone, and we refused to give up the placard. We told them there's lots of Jesus is gay signs around. Go and take those off first, then come and take the Allah's gay one. And also we asked what's wrong with being gay. There's definitely some homophobia behind that. And then the police did back down. But we also had a placard saying East London Mosque incites hatred against gays and ex-Muslims, which they do. And they filed a complaint against us. And it took Pride 8 months to decide whether they're going to let us march again. Again, because of accusations of Islamophobia and all. But anyway, this is a discussion we opened up. Again, the type of discussion that Betty is trying to open up in Morocco and elsewhere as well. So I think, I'm sorry, I do have to leave, but I do think that there is a lot we can do and must do for Betty. She is really one of our own. She is one of us. And in a sense, fighting for her is fighting for ourselves, for our own right to speak, to think, and to live differently than what is expected of us by the fundamentalists, because really that's what it boils down to. Very often I'll say it's about Muslim culture or respecting Islam, but actually what it means is you've got to respect the fundamentalists, you've got to respect the far right, the religious right, and live the way they say you need to live. And of course, Betty is a living embodiment of saying no to that sort of demand and living her life freely. And so really, we have to do everything and anything to defend her and to make, we have to make people see who she is, the great, great woman, activist and campaigner she is, the kind, empathetic sort of person who has risked so much and is risking even more now with 2.5 years in prison. We have to make sure that we can get her out as soon as possible. And of course, there's a legal appeal. We're there with her sister, supporting her all the way. I did tell the sister about this live stream. She was really happy to hear that we're doing it. So thank you, Osama and Rami, for that. And, the fight continues until she's free. Thank you, everyone. I'm sorry I have to leave.
Oh, no. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Now we get to do things like this. Because when it's 4 people and I put up something like this, I cover somebody's whole face while they're talking, so I couldn't do it.
Oh.
Yeah. And I don't know why StreamYard doesn't let you do 4 like across. Anyway, I'm blind.
I think it wouldn't be very practical. But in any case, I don't know, Rose, if you have an idea about the feasibility of the appeal that's going on right now. Do you have an idea about the legal aspects of this, whether it's actually something that can be based on what we know?
Yes, we've been told that, we haven't really got access to speaking to our lawyers, obviously. And a lot of the lawyers can only literally speak to her immediate family. So a lot of the situation is being kept quiet for various reasons. But I know we are looking at, the UN are looking at giving her the some support with that, because if she's recognised as a human rights defender, then that will open up a few more doors. So there is that, and I believe one of the human rights organisations in Morocco have also come out and said that it's a travesty and it is a violation of human rights. So even one of the organisations within Morocco have actually come out and said that as well. So I mean, the fact that usually it's 5 years and that people get for such a so-called offence, and it's actually 2.5, shows that they know that they are limited to what they can do because of things like her health and international pressure already. So I think there's already a bit of a sign of that with the fact that it's half of what it usually is. But so I think it's a case of we've just got to keep on fighting. And her sister has done an excellent job of rallying support and getting press coverage in France and in Spain as well. So yeah, I'm not a great strategist or anything like that. So I'm literally just learning as I go while I'm helping out with this campaign. But yeah, I think we've just got to keep on fighting. Yeah, regardless.
Well, I'm looking now at the Wikipedia page for Hajar al-Raisuni, who is also a Moroccan, and I know that Betty has also lobbied for her release when she was imprisoned. So what's mentioned there is that she was arrested in 2019 and she was sentenced for 1 year after having been charged with illegal abortion and having sexual relations outside of marriage. And the interesting aspect here was that it was the king who issued amnesty afterwards. So it seems that the legal path that went through the courts probably did not actually lead to an appeal in the regular sense, and it required the king to intervene. But this means that if the king has intervened, that probably has some kind of an international pressure that was applied in some sense or another, because otherwise it would have been done through the courts. So there is a precedent. That's the first thing. And the second thing is whatever channels that were used in the first case probably might need to be invoked in this situation as well. And I'm sure that people from Betty's organization, Mali itself, probably have a sense of how to proceed in that sense. It's unfortunate from this perspective that it wasn't done directly through the courts, because if you're talking about a law that is being prosecuted in the courts, and then you have an appeal, and this appeal is not going through the courts in a direct way, and it's waiting for some kind of an extra legal or something that supersedes that. It's a little bit precarious, but it's actually also a source of optimism that with enough international pressure from human rights organizations, from basically Western countries that do value these things, it seems to be doable, and that at least that pathway seems to be open.
Usama, do you think it's worth it to post that link in the comments with a few words about what it is? Or is
looking at the Arabic version of this, let me see what.
Okay, maybe not. I don't know.
Well, let me see. What English.
While you're doing that, I was going to just say that there is a precedent for similar cases as well. So if you look at the case of people like Asia Bibi and Mubarak Bala and a few other cases as well, because of international pressure, blasphemy charges have been dropped. So with the case of Mubarak Bala, he was originally sentenced to 24 years for blasphemy, and he was released last year. And I think I can't remember the details of how long he ended up in prison, but because of international pressure, it was drastically reduced from 24 years to, I think, 4 or 5. I mean, that is a travesty in itself, but he didn't expect to come out alive and to live after he got that sentence. And the fact that he's now not only free, he's actually in Germany now, shows that things like this can happen. And I think it's worth learning from how that was handled as well. I think almost everybody in the atheist and secularist circle know who Mubarak Bala is and his situation, because he was so well talked about. And I think we've got to make sure
is he active in the public sphere? Is he somebody we could talk to and he could teach us about this? What happened?
I will email him. I do have his email. He was, when he first came out, he did a lot of live streams and lots of interviews and things like that. I have when he first came out, I think it was about a year ago. It doesn't feel like that long ago, but I can try and contact him myself, but also I'm sure other people will have the ability to get in touch as well. But yeah, it's definitely worth looking at. I think Humanist International, because he was the leader of the Humanist in Humanist Association in Nigeria.
That's
so yeah, there is a precedent for that. So yeah, I think it's just a case of keeping that pressure on and going back to people like that as well, and seeing and learning from how they've handled the situation. And I haven't heard of Hajar al-Sunni. I'll definitely find out more.
Here is, I just pasted the Wikipedia. That's the English one. I was reading from the Arabic one before. But regarding what you just mentioned, I think it's also a little bit hard to take a situation that was happening in Nigeria and just start making generalizations. Especially, I know these are countries that are not really far apart geographically, but still the political system is very different. The what's happening inside is very different. But what I can remark here, based on this situation with Hajar al-Sunni and also with Mohammed Mkhitir, who was also about to be sentenced to death in Mauritania a while back and was released. In both cases, it seemed that there was one aspect where the populace was actually asking for punishing the activist, and the authorities themselves were actually the side that eventually intervened in some way on the side of the activists to release them or to have them leave the country or do something that's going to.
This is Mauritania?
In Mauritania, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, in the case of Betty, it seems because it was the an Islamist organization, the head of an Islamist organization by the sounds of it, who actually initiated this arrest. And we know that there are elections coming up in a year or a year and a half as well. So there is the backdrop of that to consider with this as well. So if people want to whip up that sort of like populism by detaining somebody who's an enemy of Islam, so to speak. But yeah, it sounds very much because we know that she's had a lot of death threats and threats, and she's been quite unpopular in Morocco. But I can imagine there are organisations and people in Morocco who are favourable of what she stands for and what she's done. And so I think one of the things that I've been thinking is it'd be really good to have more more material in Arabic and in French. I can imagine the French people in France have already got a fair bit of material because her organisation, I think, works in French and stuff. But if we can reach out to the diaspora, Moroccan diaspora, who've still got links to family and friends living in Morocco, but they're outside, to try and gain that support for and understanding about what Betty stands for in their own language and in their own ways of speaking, to try and whip up that support for Betty. I think that would be another avenue to go down. So it's not just outsiders coming in like us telling them, oh, you should do this and you should do that, and isn't it terrible? But if we can sort of like relay this message to people, their own people, and get support within Morocco from people, either dissidents from outside of Morocco, or hopefully people are watching this that are in Morocco and wanting to support her and talk about her and carry on some of the actions that she's done as well, that would be ideal.
Do you know if somebody was in contact with Qasim Ghazali?
No.
Do you know him? Do you know of him?
No.
He's Moroccan, and I believe he's in the he works with or at the UN Human Rights branch. So he's basically someone who might be able to. Well, I'm not going to start speculating, but
No. That's
it's,
fine. Yeah.
It's a person.
Yeah. Sorry, carry on.
No, I was just thinking that he's a person that, given the fact that he's Moroccan and he probably knows a lot about the inside about what's actually what would work and what wouldn't work in Morocco. He might be a helpful person to.
Yeah, and that's what Rose was saying. We need to get connected with the people that are there.
Yeah. I know one of our members in the coalition has actually reached out to the UN, to a contact they have in the UN, and they're looking at giving her the human rights defender sort of like title and recognition. So it gives them more ground to speak on, it gives her more legal status internationally and things like that, get more rights for her and stuff like that. But I think one of the things that I've been thinking, because I don't have many contacts in these sorts of organizations, and so one of the things I was thinking, if people do have contacts in these organizations, in and political contacts with where they know the MPs personally, or they know lawyers personally, if they can get in touch with the coalition or get in touch with one of us, that would be excellent. I know Miriam's got some people that she's been working with over the decades that she's been fighting.
Since like 13 years old.
I have no idea. I've never. I think it'd be fascinating to have an autobiography of Miriam Namazi, to see all the things that she's done and all the work she's done. But yeah, because I've sent out quite a lot of emails and things to the Amnesty in Morocco and Human Rights Watch and things like that, and I have barely had anything back. The only email I've had back was from the National Secular Society, which is only because Mariam sent me the email for the policy director there, and so because there's that initial contact already, It's something that happened. But that was the other thing as well. With the organisation I volunteer for, Faithless Hijabi, one of the things that we do have is a writers' club, to get people to write in about their experiences of being an ex-Muslim, write poems and things like that. But one of the things I would urge people to do is, if you can write to your national papers asking them to cover this, or writing
do we have a sample letter of that?
Not
and if not, can we make one? Because I don't think we should expect people to write this kind of thing.
I think there was a template. I think there was a template.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah. I know there is a letter template that I've put up, but it does need to be updated since her sentence was given out.
Because as soon as that's done, I want to do that for my local paper. Yeah. I want to be one of the people doing it. And then when I do it, I want to do it live here so people can see how to do it. I mean, I guess it doesn't take anything besides copy paste into an email, right?
Yeah.
Is that all we're talking about?
Yeah. Yeah, but also I think it's really important that because I had a message from an ex-Muslim to my Faithless Hijabi account, and this ex-Muslim was saying that they were devastated and heartbroken by the fact that the world doesn't seem to care about her.
Yeah, how is she gathering that? I mean, from what I see from the few people I'm dealing with, they look like they do care. Who's not caring? Like, looks like Rose's connection froze again. While she's fixing that. Oh, you're back, Rose?
Yep. I'm right on the nexus here. There's the evil nexus in my house where the internet comes and goes. But
the evil nexus in your house. That's funny. The place where there's no Wi-Fi. Sorry.
Oh yeah. All right. This room is.
So sorry. I kind of lost what you were saying. Right.
Yeah. So what I was saying was
If I may suggest, maybe you can turn off the video for the moment. Maybe that's going to improve the quality.
Yeah, that would improve the audio. Yeah, maybe that'll help.
Is this better?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
No, I didn't.
The lighting is better too.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So sorry, I didn't hear any of what was just said. But I was just saying that there was a message that I got in response to what's happening with Betty in the 30-month sentence. And they were saying that they were devastated and they felt like the world completely ignores us as ex-Muslims and as apostates. And it just really hit hard. And I think it would be good for people to also write in their own voices about this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So yes, there's for people, there is a case for cutting and pasting letters, but I think also trying to write in our own voices, saying, look, this is the fears that we have. This is
you can also cut and paste and then also have a bracket for add your own language here.
Absolutely. But yeah, I think the more that we encourage people to become Betty, in the sense that, speak regardless of how scared we may or may not be, I think that is a really important takeaway from this too. And yeah, so yeah.
I guess part of that too is how do we help people that are feeling that way not feel that way, how do we help them gain confidence? And I don't mean fake confidence. I mean real confidence. But that means, understanding everything, not everything, but having an understanding of how this is going to work and that we can do it.
I think showing from examples, so showing ourselves as examples of how we ourselves are putting ourselves out there and we're still safe, we're still functioning.
You know, it reminds me of something else. I'd like to say this one little thing. Me and Ibtissame, when we started this whole program, this weekly live stream, which we're on episode 35, episode 1, here's what we talked about. Or it might have been somewhere in the first 5 episodes, because it was the same package deal. It was, what's the future of Islam? And a big theme that I was explaining was, a lot of people are scared of what Islam is doing to the world, as if that is the biggest problem the world has. And I was saying it's not even in the top 10 list of things that are good, that could screw up the world, and Islam really isn't the factor in it. But here's the point. Somebody who's scared about Islam, who just hears what I said, would be more scared. Because I just said, here's bigger things to be scared about, in effect, in their from their perspective, with the new information, but not with my perspective. Then they get more scared. So it's kind of hard to inform people with information, and also your perspective carries over too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if that matters. I think one of the most important aspects in terms of getting to these people, plus other people who might feel that they're not able to contribute, but could actually discover that they can, is to show what aspects of Betty's work have been contributing to Moroccan society, but also human rights in general. Once you're able to make that connection with her, even if you have some obstacles, internal obstacles, practical obstacles, if the motivation is strong enough, you're going to take action. You're going to find it's not necessarily writing to someone, but you probably will be able to find some action that is suitable for you personally, that would fit your own situation, and that would help you feel that you have participated in this. So there are so many different ways that that would depend on what the person feels like, and what kind of disposition they have, what ideas, what kind of things they identify with when it comes to her contributions, and in general contributions of people who put their life on the line in order to promote a certain cause, to basically be a voice for that cause.
Absolutely. And I think we shouldn't underestimate how much little actions can snowball into a big one. So I'm just trying to think of an example, but
that's a good point. People don't see small units of progress. They instead kind of see it as, well, that's not big enough. Nothing really happened. We haven't made progress. Now I'm depressed. And, recognizing actual small units of progress that actually build towards large progress over a longer period, that matters. And I don't think, most people don't really have the right perspective on that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Because just one person type away on their laptop on Facebook saying, free Betty, it's not just one person. If everybody does it, if there's 1 million people doing it, that is quite a big effect. I'm just looking at this question about building a coalition with the liberal Muslims. EXMI, we have Muslimish as one of the organizations in the EXMI. I think you guys know more about Muslimish than I do, because I've not really spoken to them much, but aren't they Muslimish they do some excellent work supporting not just Muslims, but people who are questioning Islam as well. And you can have left as well, and it doesn't matter. They coordinate quite a lot of really good work, but I'll let you guys speak on that because I don't know much about them.
Well, I think an organization like Muslimish would probably be the best bet when we talk about liberal Muslims. When we talk about just a regular Muslim who might be who who might call themselves liberal without really being engaged in any kind of activity of that sort, they probably would still find any kind of action that is labeled as blasphemy by the fundamentalists also to be offensive in one way or another. I don't want to denigrate people, but I think that the liberal Muslims very often, especially those who don't really look into this in a deeper level,
Well,
would just
sounds like you're saying it's just like the Westerners who are doing that.
Yeah, to some extent. They would basically give the fundamentalists more power than they deserve. They assume, okay, this is the stricter version of Islam, and it probably has some correct core, and they basically leave it to the fundamentalists to take center stage and not take action. But yeah, there are organizations like Muslimish that would definitely be considered as a voice to go to.
Do anyone know how to pronounce that? Mirial?
No idea.
Mirial.
I'm gonna go with what I thought of. Mirial. Rose, do you know if any of us have contacted Humanist International?
I have met I'm not sure about Humanist International, but I know Humanist UK have, when the story of the arrest first came out, they did publish a article in support of her. I'm not sure about Humanist International. I will try and find out a bit more about that and see, find out about this cases of concern, because I'm literally just learning on the job, because I've not.
I'm guessing an organization like Humanist International would have already heard about this, but it's worth trying. Maybe we are the ones that told them.
Yeah. I will have a look, because I'm pretty sure Humanist UK have talked about this and acknowledged that what's happening there, but I'm not sure I've heard anything from Humanist International. It's definitely something that we need to have a look at. I think I have emailed them and tried to get in touch as well, but it might come better coming from somebody who's a bit more well known.
I imagine there's like a competition of cases in the sense that there's more cases than they can handle.
Oh yeah.
Is that the case, bro?
Yeah. So I think because one of the organizations I tried to get a hold of, they sent a automatic reply saying that they're not able to take any more cases on because of the situation in Afghanistan and Pakistan. They're getting so much caseload and
too
work
many to deal with our current amount of bandwidth with all the current activists worldwide.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. I think we all knew that. There's more more demand than supply. And to use some business terms,
unfortunately.
By like a million times maybe.
And that's why even little actions from people make so much difference, because people like ourselves, activists, are quite really busy. There's so much more work to do than we can keep up with. So, people, if you can do the little things like writing Facebook message or emailing an organization or their local newspapers and things like that, the more things like that we can get, little actions that people can do. Don't underestimate how much it supports everybody else. Without a doubt. And it's me, Rayol. Are we able to ask, put a StreamYard link for people to join?
I mean, I guess if we were gonna take callers, who are you thinking of?
Muriel. It'd be nice to hear
Muriel,
from her.
would you like to? Did I say it right? Muriel? I think it's Muriel. Would you
I
like
just like the
to
name.
call in right now and talk to us about your
If
ideas
we
on
chat.
how we could do this better? It's okay if not. A lot of people just want to chat. They're not available
That's
for
absolutely fine. Yeah,
and
no,
even
it's
if they
great.
might be later, maybe right now, you know, she's not doesn't consider herself presentable right now. So maybe
Yeah,
next
I
time.
mean, there might even be family in the room and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
because I've had
Noise,
situations where
lawnmowers.
yeah, I've had family around, or you know, and I haven't been able to speak, and I've just been able to chat. So, but yeah, thank you, Muriel. It's good to have your input here.
Yeah, that
And
was
it'd
part of the
be
purpose of this too. And I guess we didn't say it right at the beginning, but Mariam and I were saying it before we went live, that we also want to try to get, you know, ideas, brainstorming and scrutiny from the audience too, not just us, you know.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, what we just talked about was that we don't have enough activists, basically. Long term, to have a large effect long term. And by the way, some people have said my long term thinking is like 1,000-year plan. So long term, we need more activists, which means current activists need to mentor
Absolutely,
to become
absolutely agree with that.
activists. And so,
Yeah.
by the way, Usama, I want to dedicate a whole episode, I don't know when yet, to just planning, brainstorming, thinking up how we could do such a thing. And I mean something very specific. Just a first step. What could the first step look like? The first step might just be an episode that we do where maybe one person came on and is exploring being mentored by us, something like that, something very small and
That'd be
easy.
brilliant.
Yeah, that's a nice idea. But if I want to think about the method of actually amplifying the voices that we have, this idea of launching a coordinated campaign where everybody is speaking at the same time, that's definitely a way to amplify it. I mean, think about the way that social media utilizes hashtags, for example. If the hashtag is able to create a big enough ripple to have many people ride the wave, then definitely that's even with a small number of activists, you can still leverage that size of the wave in order to amplify and intensify the loudness of what's being shouted. So yes, there is a lack of activists who are basically able to speak in different venues, to have different sets of audiences. But I think campaigning is definitely one way, at least in the short run. But like you're saying, in the long run, probably having something a little bit more systematic, coordinated to enable people who are interested in joining this kind of effort to at least have a sense of what kind of tools they might use, or what works and what doesn't work. Because if you're just coming with good faith and wanting to contribute, but not being able to do that because of the inefficiency of the way that you do that, that's probably also going to be a waste of effort.
And part of what they need to learn is how we do it efficiently.
Yeah. I coming back to what Osama was saying, that even small actions.
By the way, can I interrupt real quick?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Someone wants to come on. It was Mariel. She's using a different name here. Can I put her on right now?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. She's going by, I think it's Atish. I don't know though. Can we see the name? Hold on. Let me see if we can see the name. Nope. Hold on. There. Hello?
Hello. Hey there. Am I audible?
Yes,
Absolutely,
we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Is it Atish?
Yes, it's
Okay.
Atish. That's my pseudonym.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, of course. I was actually in contact with Veiled Rose over on Instagram over
Oh,
like a while ago. Yeah, because I was
Okay.
looking for volunteering opportunities for the cause.
Oh
oh,
wow.
are you the person who messaged me earlier today?
Yes, that's me.
Oh,
Like over the
oh,
past few
brilliant.
months. Yes.
Fantastic. I thought you were a male for some reason.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe she is, and it's just a different voice. Maybe that's a bad
Oh,
joke. I don't
maybe.
Fair enough.
Um,
Fair enough.
yeah, yeah, it's really no, it's good to hear your voice. It's brilliant. Because a lot of the time when I'm doing these sorts of like campaigns and live streams and things like that, I never actually get to hear a person's voice. I speak to them quite often, but it's amazing to hear your voice. It's brilliant.
That's
Um,
cool.
Thank you
yeah.
so much. And I also usually don't go on this medium of like, audio and stuff because I'm actually from Pakistan and English is not my native language. So it's really hard for me to form coherent sentences or maybe authentically convey what I'm feeling or stuff. So yeah,
I
so
think you're
that's
doing
why.
very, very well so
You're
far.
doing amazing. Yeah, you're doing
Sounded to
fantastic.
me like
You,
English is your first language.
Yeah. I think
thank
you're
you.
talking it better than me. So well done.
Yeah, that's so kind of you to say, and likewise. And I wanted to share some things
Sure.
regarding what I've been doing for like maybe the past 3 months, if it's all right,
Yeah.
Yeah,
like a
of course.
general discussion. Yeah. So, is anyone aware of the case of Junaid Hafiz?
No.
Right.
No.
So, Junaid Hafiz is basically an absolutely brilliant academic from Pakistan, which is my country, right?
Mhm.
And what happened was that he was a Fulbright scholar, right? He got a scholarship to USA. He studied in Jackson University for like maybe an MPhil in English literature and stuff. And then he came back to Pakistan, right? And then he got into a university and he wanted to get the position of lecturer. However, there was a right-wing extremist Islamist party that was actually eyeing on that position, and they like really opposed his liberal views. So they basically alleged that he committed blasphemy, and he has been incarnated in prison since 2013. So like since January, I was researching about blasphemy laws and their victims for like my own personal documentation, right? And I stumbled across a few journalists. The first one was Umar Ali, and he's an award-winning journalist. So I was trying to get in contact with him through other journalists, and the website was like Pakistan journalism and stuff. And right now, my goal was definitely to contact his father and maybe like financially support him, because in a lot of articles it was written that he used to have like a weekly journey from his city to I think Multan. It's like 3 miles or something, right? And he gives his son books, right, weekly, on a weekly basis. And he said that he has like really bad financial situations and stuff, so it's really hard for him to continue. So I was wondering if I could like maybe help him in that regard, and I wanted to bring that to the attention of like ex Muslims of North America as well. So yeah, that's what I've been working on for like the past 3 months.
Oh,
We have a
okay.
budding activist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic. Because the organisation that we're in, the coalition, ex-Muslims International, we do have somebody in EXMNA, ex-Muslims of North America, that we could get you in touch with potentially. And so because I don't know if you have heard, but ex-Muslims of North America, they have something called the persecution tracker that they update quite often as well, where you can see
What?
the case. Sorry, go on.
I have a question. What's our representation in Pakistan?
What's your representation in Pakistan?
What I mean is, what organizations within EXMI that are in Pakistan?
I don't think we have. I don't think we have any. It's. I don't know if you're familiar, because the situation. I let Atish
I'm
speak,
guessing
actually.
no such organization can exist in Pakistan.
I think there are, but they probably won't be operating in the open the way that you.
And in the open means publicly declaring that they are part of the EXMI coalition.
Yeah. It's very dangerous. Basically, a few years ago there was a case of Adish, you probably know more about it. The case of the judge who was assassinated by his own bodyguard because he.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, Salman Taseer. His name was Salman Taseer, and the case was of Asya Bibi. I researched about that as well. And he was basically he was the governor of Punjab, and Punjab is a major province of Pakistan. So the fact that he got murdered in like plain daylight, and the fact that his murderer, which was Mumtaz Qadri, he was hailed as a national hero in Pakistan. So although he got persecuted, like later on, his image was rather good in the eyes of the general population, because like Islamism is rooted within the very core of our morals and our conscience. And even now, a lot of people may frown that that Mumtaz Qadri shouldn't have murdered Salman Taseer, the governor of Punjab. However, Salman Taseer shouldn't have in a way supported a blasphemer, even if the blasphemer in question wasn't like there was no proof of them committing blasphemy.
Yeah. The situation with blasphemy laws in Pakistan is really appalling. Everybody can end up in court for whatever it is that they might be saying. It's really such. It's very easy to end up being accused of blasphemy over there.
It's absolutely horrendous.
Hey guys, I got some information. I think this is going to be important to discuss right now. Ex-Muslims of Pakistan exists. And when I searched it, it looked like they were having the logo of Ex-Muslims of North America, which means like they're connected. Like they're claiming they are a subsidiary of EXMNA.
Regarding this, I do know that they exist on Twitter, but they don't really have connections with the underground community of Pakistani ex-Muslims. The majority of the coalitions, I think you could say, or the interactions, or how we exist as a community of ex-Muslims in Pakistan is through Discord servers, and that's it. There is a subreddit called r/Paki ex-Muslims, correct? And they have their own official Discord server. So we only connect through Discord and not through Twitter, because Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube are heavily monitored. However, Discord is not.
Yeah.
So the ex-Muslims of Pakistan, they're just a page, and I think that they operate abroad and not really in Pakistan, and they have no connections with the actual.
And it looks like they're not. I mean, it looks like what you're saying also is they're not public. They're not doing things like talking to the UN or even talking to the other ex-Muslim organizations.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm not sure if other people have noticed, but at least me, it's incredibly appalling for me how a lot of ex-Muslim representation is supportive of Christian nationalists, or maybe the the right-wing community, right? Because like the ex-Muslim community, I think by definition, it is a leftist movement, right? You're basically demanding freedom, even if it's women's rights or feminism and stuff. So it makes no sense that you're, in a way, switching sides just to get maybe appreciation or something, or money in a way. And these, like, I think there's one specific YouTuber that's really, really hated in Pakistan in the ex-Muslim community, and that's Haris Sultan, right? And it's incredibly easy to fall into the rabbit hole of bigotry, of like anti-Muslims,
Absolutely.
right? And for me, and like almost all of the Pakistani ex-Muslim community, we support Palestine, right? And when we notice that a lot of people are like condoning the atrocities like going on in Gaza and stuff just because they're Muslim, it's really appalling. And the fact it's also that the West sees this, and the Western liberals see this, and they think, oh, it's like a very correct representation of the entire ex-Muslims as a whole. So the first thing is that
I want to clarify something, and then I want to say Gurwak is saying there's a YouTuber, Friendly Ex-Muslim, interviewed a man who was the ex-Muslims of Pakistan. So he's public. I'm going to try to find out what his name is, but he's somebody you should connect with. Definitely try to connect with all the organizations too, EXMNA, but it sounds like that's somebody you should connect with also.
Yeah, I think I've heard of it. I've heard the interview. I think it's a gay Muslim or something. I think that was like in the title.
I see. And the other thing I want to say is, a lot of them that are doing this, the big YouTuber ex-Muslims that are on the wrong side of things, I don't think it's fair to say it's that their reasoning is just because that they're Muslims. I think it's more they've been fooled by a whole bunch of propaganda. It's a lot more complicated than just because they're Muslims. There's a whole bunch of propaganda that we're all being subjected to. I think I was fooled by plenty of it too. I think I only got out of it recently. I was never really deep into it either, but I think I only got out of it recently, after October 7th.
Yeah, absolutely. I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, there's a lot of... Anyway, just sorry to interrupt there.
Oh, not at all.
Coming back to what you were saying about ex-Muslims who have gone on to support Christian nationalists and white supremacists, I think it's a crying shame, because what they're doing basically is making your life and the life of people like yourselves still in Muslim countries, Islamic countries, much harder. So if you wanted to escape Pakistan, which I'm assuming most ex-Muslims in those situations want to, it's going to make life a lot harder, because it's anti-immigrant rhetoric that a lot of these sort of like people are using, and they're not distinguishing between ex-Muslims and Muslims who are stuck in Islamic countries. They're just assuming everybody is sort of like wrong and they should not come to the UK, and they're making it a lot harder for you, and it's really disgusting. One of the things that I find the hardest as well is that people like Tommy Robinson and people like him, they're being a lot smarter than the people on the left, because Tommy Robinson is claiming that he's not a racist. We know he is, and and he's using ex-Muslims as useful idiots to claim that he's not a racist, and he's claim that he is reasonable, and things like that. But when you look at his track record of mainly attacking brown Muslims, and his selective outrage when it comes to sexual violence towards women and children, it just shows he is using ex-Muslims like Harris Sultan and Nuria Khan as useful pawns. I mean, it's really hard, because I remember hearing Noria Khan having a big argument with Harris about sexism, and then to go and work with someone like Tommy Robinson, who is on record for having kicked and beaten severely until they're unconscious an off-duty female police officer. It just, to me, it's just like, where have you started and where are you finishing at the moment? But the white supremacists and Christian nationalists are not our friends. The only reason why, for me, the only reason why they attack Islam and Islamism is because they're jealous. They want that same power for themselves. They don't want somebody else to have it. And if you look at some of the tweets that Tommy Robinson puts out, he wants the same sort of things as the Islamists do when he calls for Christian nationalism. And when he's attacked women online and stuff like that, it's hard to tell him apart from like Mohammed's hijab. If you just covered up the name and asked people to say who was it, it would be hard to tell. But I think that's the one thing about people like Mariam Namazi and Betty Lachgar and others, is that they haven't given into this bigotry and this anti-asylum rhetoric and gone for because as far as I'm concerned, Christianity is just as bad. It's just been weakened by things like the Enlightenment and Reformation and stuff like that. But if they could still have that same power, they would. I mean, if you look at how they're trying to claw back power in the US.
It sounds to me it's all the God believers.
Absolutely, yeah.
Did that because they did that to Socrates, and I'm not so sure they had like a religion like a Christianity or a Islam 2,500 years ago in ancient Greece. But the heads of that, the jury of his peers decided to execute Socrates and the charge was corrupting the minds of the children against God. So I think it's so it's and it might not be all God believers, because there's God believers like deists, And actually, I remember Usama telling me it doesn't even make sense to call that God, because the word God has a whole bunch of other meaning also.
Yeah, but the point with believers is that it never is truly about a belief in some kind of a supernatural deity. It's always about power on the ground,
political control.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Using some I'm going to use the word hypnosis with some fake beliefs that are bullshit to control the masses.
Yeah, it's gaslighting, isn't it? It's gaslighting and manipulation. But I read a book, Roots of Civilization, by Abdullah Ocalan, and he basically wrote about what we're talking about, that all these religions were founded to justify the priests, who were a lot of the time the landowners, subjugating, manipulating, and justifying their divine divine rights and their divine powers over the peasants, who were usually the slaves and the worshippers. So never trust any religion. Not the people. The people can be changed, but the religion itself, never trust them.
So, by the way, trying to refocus back to the purpose of this live stream, but also the purpose of Atish coming on here. It sounds like you wanted to let us help you connect. Do you know how you're gonna? I mean, you're already in connection with Rose, and so you could connect with EXMNA that way. I don't know how I could help. I'm new to all this anyway, but if there's some way I could help and of it, let me know. If that's something as basic as me and Usama do an episode like this where we shine light on some specific case in Pakistan, or the whole thing altogether.
I think Pakistan as a whole is probably worth looking at. But I also wanted to ask, do you have an idea about what it is that you would expect from XMNA in particular? Do you think this is probably the best organization? Do you have other organizations in mind, or what's the general direction?
Yeah, that's a lovely question. And my answer might seem a little bit controversial, and I'm awfully sorry if it's a little offensive, but at the moment, I don't think that any ex-Muslim organization is in good standing to the normal general populace of the West and the East, right? And if I go towards a more neutral approach, such as Humanist International, they're like my biggest goal at the moment. And if I use the roots of secularism and humanism to point out how the blasphemy laws are being used to discriminate and persecute innocent minorities such as Ahmadiyya Muslims and Sikhs and Hindus and Christians, if I go through that route, and if I then bring out cases of first Junaid Hafiz, then Ayaz Nizami, who is also another ex-Muslim that's incarnated in prison since 2017, when Pakistan had a like a crackdown on secular bloggers. I think maybe you might be aware of that, because something similar happened to Bangladesh as well, I think, from 2013 to 2016, right?
Yeah.
From these 3 years. And the next year in 2017, something similar happened in Pakistan, where a lot of ex-Muslim Facebook pages and bloggers and activists got caught, and then they were sent to prison. So if I use that route of humanism and empathy, I think it will not give me that much of backlash than if I would go to an ex-Muslim approach. I'm
By the
awfully
way,
sorry. I know how bad this sounds.
no, that's good.
No.
What I would say to that is, yeah, let's if it needs to be that way, and it sounds like maybe it should, where the ex-Muslim part of it is not shined on at all, we could still, as organizations, help, but secretly.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I personally
yeah.
really love Apostasy Aladdin. I think that he's generally one of the best ex-Muslim YouTubers. And also, I've been like a long time listener of your organization as well and your live streams. And I think what you're doing is also really great. And I would like to connect with you guys as well, if it's fine.
Yes.
Yeah, cool.
And like Usama said, we could dedicate an episode to Pakistan, and of course we would need, like me and Usama can't do it on our own. We don't know anything about Pakistan. So we need somebody like you who's at least from there, could tell us things. We actually had an episode similar to that with Rose, where we were talking about Bangladesh. We didn't even plan it, by the way. Maybe actually taking a step back, maybe we should do a whole episode just on Bangladesh, and maybe even combine it and do them separately, because it's a little bit related, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We were actually one country, weren't we, once, Atish? But coming back to
that Rose was there, we didn't know anything. That's the only point I was trying to say.
Yeah. I've forgotten what I was going to say.
Sorry,
no, not
my
at all.
fault.
No, not at all. Yeah. So with Atish, well, one of the things, because you've contacted me a little while ago, and I have ADHD, so my memory is awful. And with trying to do what I can to support Betty and things like that, I got a bit sidetracked. But one of the things that I worry about the most when talking to ex-Muslims in Pakistan is I worry quite a lot about your safety. So I think if we did do some work together, I think one of the things I want to make sure was that you had good internet security, like a good VPN and things like that, and yeah, just make sure you have quiet spaces where no one else is going to overhear you and things like that. Yeah, I think it's just so important to make sure that your safety comes first, and not to take any unnecessary risks. But at the same time, there's only so much you can be safe, because it's suffocating to constantly be pretending to pray and things like that. I have a ex-Muslim friend who's living in Pakistan at the moment, and he tells me how hard it is, because he can't do things like say he's not going to pray because he doesn't want to in case he gets accused of blasphemy or something like that. So he just, he just goes through the motion. And he was telling me that in during fasting months he has to be really careful about when he's eating and things like that. But yeah, I think one of those things. And in terms of going through the route of talking more about humanism and height ratio and things like that, I think it's very good, and it's a lot less likely to cause a backlash. But there are incidences where they say you don't need human rights because Islam gives you all the rights you need. And Islam is feminism, so why are you talking about women's rights? And these things can be seen as haram and things like that. So yeah, thank you, Rashid, to put Betty Lachgar. So, and like I was just coming back to her, the ex-Muslim in Pakistan that I was talking about, he was just randomly reading a book in his room, and his cousin came in and destroyed the book and said, "The only book you need is the Quran." And yeah, so I think sort of
I thought
like
they also, at least that guy also thinks we should have the hadith books too, right?
maybe,
Isn't he lying
maybe.
then when he says the only book you need is Quran? Is he a Quranist? Somebody should
I
ask
don't
him.
know.
Are you a
Yeah, I don't
Quranist?
know. Oh, I didn't even know what a hadith was until like a few years ago. That's how little we're taught about Islam in the West, or I was anyway. Um, but yeah, so when people say Betty should have been more careful with what she said, Islam literally sucks the fun out of a room. It says no to so many things. It's so supremacist in its being that it can't tolerate differences. And so yeah, I think that is something that we've really the case of Betty shows that a 50-year-old woman who's like only just taller than me, and I'm 4 foot nothing, my partner says, she's seen as a great threat because of a t-shirt she wears and stuff like that. That's how tolerant the religion is, and the zealots are. um yeah I
Sorry
think
for
in
putting
that.
that on the screen without letting anyone know I was doing it.
Oh no, that's fine.
I had it ready the
Yeah.
whole time. I think Miriam wrote this, right?
No, I think it's written by an organization that's working to free her and support her. Do apologize if it is Miriam, but I thought it was another organization. But yeah,
Okay,
so
I got confused. There's something else she's writing then. Okay.
okay. But yeah, because literally, I don't think a lot of the activism that she's done has been not about religion. It's been about human rights and women's rights, the rights for abortion. And there was famous incident where these teenagers were sentenced and arrested for kissing in public. And so when she heard about it, to support these teenagers, she actually arranged through Mali, I can't pronounce the organization name, but she actually arranged to do a kiss-in, and the press turned up. And I think that's it there, 2013. That might be yeah, that's it there. You can see it on the screen. And it generally was peaceful, apart from this passerby, somebody who just got really angry, started throwing chairs at them and getting really aggressive. And then these other sort of like people start to get angry with the protest as well. And thinking because and there was only a few of them at the protest actually doing the kissing, but it got international attention because of how aggressively people had reacted to it. And this was outside the Moroccan parliament that they did that. Do you remember Mohammed Taha in the 1980s? No.
Oh, yeah.
I don't.
I think if you're talking about the Sudanese who was executed for basically promoting the focus on Meccan rather than Medinan Quran. Yeah, if that's the person you're talking about.
I just wanted to put that on the screen real quick, even if we weren't going to like get into details.
Yeah. I think sorry, I just saw a private chat. Yeah, so coming back to what Horatio was saying, I don't know if you can put up the comment where it says, by doing this, the Moroccan government just put the light on how regressive the Muslim countries are behaving towards ex-Muslims. Exactly, because I think in one of the interviews that I've seen of her doing, she actually talks about how Morocco is seen as a progressive country, and it has quite a lot of tourism as a result of that.
Yes.
And she was saying it's not. It's deeply regressive. It's deeply entrenched in religious dogma, and it's really there's cases because she is not a married woman, and so whenever she holds meetings at her home, she has neighbours calling the police.
Yeah.
Because she's got other people in her home, and she's not a married woman, and God knows what she's going to be getting up to as a non-married woman. You know what I mean? Because
I don't think God
Islam,
knows.
she's arranging a revolution to free us all.
But
Yeah.
that actually connects very well what you're just saying, Veiled Rose, about the picture of Morocco in the minds of Western people. When going back to that other incident where the king has interfered personally in order to um, give amnesty to that other activist, I think that's exactly the same situation, in the sense that if there's enough people voicing that situation, then that same picture of Morocco being tarnished as a regressive place would then could then push either the king or someone else over there in order to interfere. It's unfortunate that this would be a possible route, because it feels like this should go through the court system, but it's definitely a possibility.
Yeah, exactly. I I think I think Saudi Arabia is another example of how the leadership have had to change direction and water down their Islamist laws and things like that because of international pressure. So hence they got rid of the driving ban for women. I mean, it's still deeply regressive in Saudi Arabia, and they have a long way to go. But it just shows that even the most regressive government and kingdoms can be chipped away at if we fight enough. And I think Rami, you were talking in the Signal group about how about Sudan. You were asking about Sudan and how they've got rid of their apostasy laws. And I
want to preface that with an AI. I forgot which one told me about it in the first place.
Yeah,
because I was having a discussion with it about how it can help us with apostasy laws, and it mentioned, well, why don't you do what happened in Sudan? So go ahead and say.
Yeah, so have a revolution is basically what they did. It started out with a normal strike by university lecturers and professors, and it got bigger into I believe a general strike, which is where like all of the workforce in the country that is trade unionized went on strike as well. and I really can't remember the details of it, but there was a military backlash, but they managed to overthrow the dictator, and it got to the stage where things were so bad in the country that people were like, I'm going to have to fight for a better world, and if it means losing my life, you know, I haven't got much of a life anyway because of these tyrants who are making our lives hell. And so, yeah, I got distracted by the comments there. But
I
yeah,
think with Sudan, the situation is really messy. It's a country that has gone through a lot over the past few decades.
It's a lot of civil war, right?
Civil war, and
Civil war between two ethnicities. Am I right?
yeah, and the country
Both
broke
Muslim.
up. It was one big country. It broke up, and you have now two Sudans. So it's a really big, messy place.
yeah, absolutely.
So
And yeah,
yeah,
sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to just say that the getting rid of the apostasy laws, it's not, they have got rid of them, but it's not quite as clear cut as that. You still have to be careful about blasphemy and things like
Exactly. Yeah.
that. And when the public aren't necessarily haven't got rid of the baggage of Islamism and stuff like that as well, you have to be very careful. And I think that's
Yeah,
why.
and that's why the target isn't really laws, it's culture. Laws help prop up culture, but the laws are caused by the culture. So we're working on apostophobia.
Absolutely.
The fear
My
of leaving
battery.
religion.
Exactly.
Maybe
And
that's a good place to stop. What do you guys think? We're almost at 2 hour point.
yeah, I'm happy. Yep.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks everyone for coming. This was good. We're gonna keep going. Maybe when we have more planned out, maybe we do another episode just for this Free Betty.
Following up, definitely, especially as more updates come our way, and maybe it also might depend on certain actions that need to be taken as time progresses. So it's definitely something that's still in flux. So one episode or one meeting like this is definitely not enough.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Especially if this goes on for 2.5 years.
Also, please, people visit the Ex-Muslims International website, where we've got the press release and actions. We'll be posting more over the next few days of things that people can do to support her, but just make sure people keep talking about her using hashtags like Free Betty, and reach out to your local MPs and human rights activists and organizations, and yeah, just don't let the story go silent.
Yeah,
we won't let it.
Definitely.
Okay, everyone. I guess that's good. We will see you next time. Thank you,
Take
Rose.
care.
Thank you, Sarah.
Bye.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Bye-bye.
Oh, you're welcome. Bye.
Goodbye.